is the season for boycotting companies, having awkward conversations on the sidewalk. You know, it's about the happy holidays / Merry Christmas. Is there a war on Christmas? Well, CAK is going to take on this war, if it exists, and he's going to win that war for you guys. This is CAK versus Christmas. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Ramadan, Happy Solstice, Happy Tet, Happy Festivus, and everything in between. Or may I use a singular phrase that incorporates everything around this time of the year, something that's been used for over 100 years, Happy Holidays. Now we're in this issue right now of what is this war on Christmas? Is it really a war, or is it something made up? Is it politicized? Is it a real issue that we're facing right now in America, where Christmas, where we're making thousands and millions and billions of dollars already in commerce in this season? What is really being threatened? And that's the question I'm going to get to right here. Now, I will be looking at both sides of the issue, but frankly speaking, this needs to be kiboshed already. And let me tell you about the war on Christmas. Now, I approach this actually as not a left issue or a right issue. This is a non-issue. This is a smoke screen. This is just parlor games to keep you busy and being angry about things. Meanwhile, other things are happening in the U.S. and around the world, as little as your small communities, that you need to be focusing on. But unfortunately, major mainstreams don't want you to focus on that. So we're going to do that right here in CAK versus Christmas. And let's get down to the basics. Let's start with the history of this. Now, some think that the war on Christmas started with the whole Starbucks Red Cup issue a couple of years ago, which I have to give a shout out to Starbucks. I'm not a fan of coffee, and I'm not a big fan of your brand, but you know what? I gotta give you a thumbs up for the new green cups with a continuous line that forms everyone on the cup, which means we are all united. That's pretty rad in itself, and I gotta give you kudos to that. But let's get to the historical fact of this whole issue of the war on Christmas. In fact, the war on Christmas goes as far back as the 17th century, and that started with the Puritans, the ones that came across the Mayflower and all the other boats that settled the East Coast. You know that we have this wonderful United States of America that happened. Yeah, we all escaped England, started the United States of America, United States of America. And we all talk about the Puritans and Thanksgiving and all that stuff. They were against Christmas. They thought it actually went against the Bible and its teachings as well. But that isn't the real war on Christmas that we're talking about. Go as far back as 2005. Fox News was hammering away on John Gibson's new book. He's a conservative radio host who put out a book entitled The War on Christmas. With that, it was actually focusing on banning non-religious symbols like Santa Claus and Christmas trees, which we'll get to in a moment. John Gibson was actually surprised that this blew up bigger than it was, because Happy Holidays wasn't an issue in his book. He didn't really care about that. It was talking about non-religious items being taken out of the schools as part of the separation of church and state. And on a side note, let's actually quickly talk about Santa Claus and the Christmas tree. Let's talk about Santa Claus for starters. 3 things you need to know. Number 1, where did the name come from? Most historians and theologians agree it was St. Nicholas of Myra, which was in 4th century Greece. He was a man that gave a lot of presents and gifts to the poor. When we talk about the imagery, we have to all go back to the actual pagan ideology, more so Norse mythology, and we talk about Odin with a great big white beard, because during this time of Yule, it would be the wild hunt. And depending on where you lived in Europe, you always had a similar name to that leader of your wild hunt during this Yule time, and that would be Woden, Odin, Yulnir, or Langbaro. Excuse me for the pronunciation. Everything comes down to Odin the figure, hence the tall man with the big white beard. Now, where's the red and white come from? That's number 3, and that's thank you to Coca-Cola. In the 1930s, they branded Santa Claus as their figure for Coca-Cola, hence the red and white. Much like Coca-Cola's brand is red and white, so was his suit. And there is your Saint Nick. So, yes, it is actually a religious figure in the sense of pagan. It was a historical figure, as in Greece we saw with Saint Nicholas of Myra, and also it was branded American style by Coca-Cola. Now the Christmas tree, that's the Yule tree. It's paganism. Yes, it actually does form a part of religion, But the fact is, it's not approached as that anymore, and because, paganism is not allowed to be talked about, apparently, in politics. But, sorry, it's world religion, and we have to respect that. And so we talk about the Christmas tree, the Yule Tree. Yes, that is paganism. Yes, that is multitudes of different religions that we all branded together throughout Europe in a one singular category. Again, name labeling as it is. So the War of Christmas apparently has been won, according to Bill O'Reilly, because Donald Trump is president. Rich white man wins, planning to take everything away from the people that need help. This is like the reverse story of Scrooge, is it not? But is there really a war on Christmas? According to Reverend Barry Lynn, the executive director of the Americans United for Separation of Church and State, no, there isn't a war. It was actually politicized, starting from the book through Fox News, and then carried by banners, on banners by politicians waving it to get votes. And it's just this. No, there isn't actually a war on Christmas. But maybe there's a different war I'd like to propose that there is. Not necessarily I want to say a war, because war is about bloodshed and death and everything. It's a battle, or may I say a refocus on Christmas. So when I think about the war on Christmas, I usually think about those YouTube videos of everyone on Black Friday battling each other for gifts. Because that's all it is. It's like everyone getting gifts for themselves or for everyone else around them. But what is really that spirit of Christmas? And that's what I want to tackle here right now. And I got an idea for you. It's warmer versus colder. Because as we're going towards Christmas, the daylight is getting shorter. The days and nights are getting much, much colder. And I think that's a representation of our humanity. And that we're really fighting the battle. Because when I think about Christmas, I think about the good things that always happen with me. And that was there'd be, even as it got darker during the day, there'd be more Christmas lights. People would be lighting up neighborhoods. Whether they're inside their house, around their house, down the streets, people coming together and lighting up, and they refuse to let darkness overcome them. And same thing with music. You would hear so much music, so many songs. I know some of them might drive you nuts, but there was a plethora of songs that would come bursting out. And I'll even call out David Bowie, the late great David Bowie, with the late great Bing Crosby together. They put together Christmas music that I loved as well. Another thing is family. Sometimes, we don't, work well with our families, but then there are people that we haven't seen for so long that we actually get to see and come together with. And for those who are privileged to do so and have that connection, that's a major thing for them. Even if it's not for you and your family, for other families, that's a big thing. And that's something we need to appreciate for other people with what they're going through in their lives, that they need that support from their blood relatives there. And even further than that, on top of all the food and everything in between, is the bonding moments we have between everyone. This is a time where we can just blow away, because it's stressful on the corporate side of things, but the spirit of Christmas is not that. It's about embracing one another and just having a good moment where, in a kind of sense of where it's cold and it's always better to stay in a herd together and stay warm. This is what it is. It's really staying warm in the heart with everybody. So that's where I think the real war of Christmas is. It's not what we say, it's how we appreciate one another. And now with CAK versus, I look at all the subjects, so let me tell you some Christmas truths. Suicide rates, we have to approach this subject, is actually lower than most people say on social media. This is actually a truth, but it's not something to ignore. Reason being that it's actually lower during the holidays, suicidal rates, is actually because of social connection. It's actually focusing in on the people that don't have that social connection. That's why we see it so high and we talk about it this time of being. It's because we want that connection and we want it year round. So you have to remember there are people out there that don't have family anymore or are disconnected socially because we did such things like the war on Christmas, where we shun people of different religions and different beliefs and different political ideas. It's time to just bring everyone together. Heck, even World War I's trench warfare had a Christmas on the battlefield, where they all came out of the trenches and all celebrated Christmas together. It's happened in history. If they can do it in the middle of a world war, why can't you do it in your own neighborhood? Also, as of this year, 2016, with the homeless issue, as of June, 500,000 Americans are going to be homeless right now, and about 8 to 10% of those are veterans, even 50% senior citizens. 110,000 of the over 500,000 Americans are LGBT youth that are going to be homeless this holiday season. So I want you to keep that in mind. The people that have thrown them away, you have an opportunity to accept them into your own hearts as well. Let's talk about the people that have been looking for a home. Refugees, because if you think about this whole season, if you really want to get to the brass tacks of the Christian version of it, with Jesus Christ, where he was born, a refugee looking for a home. A Middle Eastern family looking for a place of birth. And then we think about Syria, especially orphans of Aleppo. And now, right now, in Aleppo, there's thousands of orphans right now that have faced war, faced hatred, and faced people killing, but they don't know love, they don't know hope. And this is an opportunity to reach out to them. And to those that have escaped Syria, that have gone across the ocean, that have not drowned, which there are many left in our memory that have drowned trying to escape. We've all run and escaped. All our ancestors have from something. And this is an opportunity to embrace them. Much like Christ would have embraced them as well. Much like he was embraced into a little tiny barn and born. Not everyone in America is an asshole. And not everyone in every other country and culture and religion is an asshole. There are good people, there are bad people. Star Wars should have taught us this by now. Christmas is an opportunity to reconnect with one another. Through all the faults that we all have as people, opportunity to rebuild and reconnect, to bridge those gaps that we don't have, even with many religions. As in many studies have noticed, that when you say Merry Christmas to Muslims, to Jewish people, to many other ethnicities, they say it right back because they understand what the concept of Christmas is. If you say Happy Holidays, some people get a little angry with you because you didn't say Merry Christmas. The whole point is not what words you say, it's the meaning behind it. And that's the real war on Christmas, is the meaning from your heart, is that you are sending out love to them. It's not forced about their religion, it's not forced about their political aspects, it's about, I just hope the best for you in the darkest of times, because these are the shortest daylight hours and some of the coldest of times. And we want the best for you, your family, your friends, as they grow out into the spring and rebirth the world, hopefully with more hope and more love. Doesn't matter which god, goddess, mono, poly, or none you celebrate. There's that urgency to fight against the dark and the cold, the inevitability. That is the cycle of life. Now, as being someone that likes to break the gaps and bridge people together, I'm going to go outside my Egyptian conniption realm and reach out to the Christian realm. And I'm talking about from ancient Egypt to Christianity. We all can say this is this and this is that and this and that between Jesus, Osiris, and a ton of other figures throughout history, and we talk about the same story. And that's what I want to get to, is the same story. The same story about survival in a world where you're a refugee and you're trying to build and guide everybody. So I'm going to do a modern version of the Beatitudes that you would see in the Holy Bible. Blessed are the humble, the mournful, the helping hands, the social warriors, the merciful, the lovers, the bridgers, and the whistleblowers. Blessed are all them, because they're fighting the good fight and trying to hold us all together in this very fragile world that we live in. And this is what the Christmas time is about. We're going into the darkness of our year on the northern hemisphere, where things get colder and the light is dimmer. But the real war is the lack of light in us, the coldness in our hearts. And that is the war on Christmas. It's to fight against the lack of light in our souls and against the coldness in our hearts. Can we do better? Can we be better? It doesn't matter who you worship. It doesn't matter what you worship. It doesn't matter if it's one day or many. It's about bonding together and being better. So, as we kick off 2016 here, Crimson Al-Khemia is saying, have a merry every day and a happy every year.